Alright, welcome back to the channel. Warhammer Man back in the studio, and we have our bases all base coated, primed, whatever you want to call them, and ready to go. If you are new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe for Warhammer 40,000, Warcry, Necromunda, Kill Team, and Age of Sigmar content. In a previous video that we already did, we created these bases, and now they are all set. We just began painting them. So if you're into that kind of content, make sure you do like and subscribe, guys. Go back and check out that video if you've not seen it already. But if you have, let's just keep on going from here. So we created these bases and went ahead and primed them with a dark brown, and then afterwards came through with about a 95% coverage with a khaki brown, which is sort of just like a light tan. And now our next step is to go ahead and dry brush them with rakarth flesh. After that, we're going to hit them with a white dry brush, and then we will do a wash using agrax earthshade, sort of like a focused wash. So we're not going to cover everything with the agrax. And then afterwards, we'll go back through, pick out some of the details, any metallics we have with either a silver or gold. And then we'll do our skulls using white and then a contrast paint afterwards, the skeleton horde. So we obviously have some big bases for our jet bikes, for our various Forge World dreadnoughts, as this is an adeptus custodes army. And then we have the big grav tank bases, and of course our magnetized platform display base for Trajan Valoris. So our next step is going to go ahead and use our rakarth flesh and just do a nice dry brush over everything. So here we have our rakarth flesh. It has been just transferred over into a army painter dropper bottle just for convenience. I like to have my regular paints in dropper bottles. So here we have the rakarth flesh. Going to go ahead and just do a nice dry brush coat over everything, and then we can proceed from there. So as you can see, nothing too wild and crazy here. Just looking to cover the majority of the base with our rakarth flesh, using our makeup brush or dry brush, whatever you're using there. And we'll notice that this is pretty close overall to the khaki color. It is just like slightly has a little bit more red in it maybe, and just a little bit lighter. So shouldn't notice a huge difference, but enough to just kind of give us a gradient. Nothing too crazy there, but we can see it's essentially just lighten it up slightly. Go ahead and do the same thing. Just kind of working our way around the outside towards the inside. I like to leave the center of the base just slightly darker, or use a little extra wash underneath the character or dreadnought, etc.'s like feet, just to kind of darken it up towards the center and lighten it up around the edges. That's it, nothing too crazy. Just going to go ahead and work through all these, and then we will come back for the next step. All right, so here we have all the bases done with our rakarth flesh. Next step is going to be to go ahead and dry brush with our white now. So for this step, we will use our Corax white, and we'll just do another coat. This time dry brush, say we want to cover roughly 50% of the surface area with this one, and then we can move on from there. And you'll notice that as I'm doing this, I'm kind of moving the base around, trying to stick with more traditionally like cross hatching kind of patterns, so that we can kind of get the look that's marbled like we have here. And as I'm doing this, I'll typically start on like the most rubble portion of it, so it kind of gets the majority of the paint off, and then I can kind of work from there. And that's the overall look we're looking for. Just trying to add a little bit of depth to our bases. All right, so here we've got the white dry brushed on and everything looking good. The next step now is going to be to go ahead and take some agrax earthshade, and we're going to go ahead and shade down in the cracks. So I'm going to try to avoid the raised up areas. Anywhere where there's like piles of sand, I want to completely saturate that area. Anywhere where there is like depressed areas or clearly like a difference in the level, I want to go ahead and make sure I get a nice little pool of the wash down in there as well. And then of course, the areas that are sticking up the most or don't have any kind of like sand or grit or anything like that, I want to leave the dry brushed white color. So essentially the goal is that the white will have mostly the initial white color, and then also a little bit of agrax that will run off onto that. And then we'll have also our rakarth flesh, and then obviously the darker areas where the wash gets on that. So now we've essentially turned like the two colors with the wash into four colors. And then we have down in the cracks our darker brown or our khaki color that we started with. And then that again will have the wash on that as well. So when it's all said or done, we basically have like around like 6 to 8 different shades of the same like 3 or 4 colors by adding the wash in. And then we're going out of our way to make sure that the most raised up areas of the dry brush stay exposed. And then after we're done doing that, we're going to go back through, we're going to pick the skulls back out in white, we're going to paint the little bits of metallics that we have on a couple of the bases, and then we will do a skeleton horde over top of the actual skulls themselves, and then that will complete the actual bases themselves once we're done with that. Again, we could add in tufts, but we're not going to be using them in this case per the client's request. But we are going to be doing at the very end when everything else is done on the bases. We'll go through and do abbadon black around the rims and make sure we have a nice black rim on these. And then at that point in time, the bases will be completed. The army is already fully painted and completed. We will transfer all the models over to the bases. And then that is it. This commission will be ready to go out of the studio. And obviously, I will show that off before it does go out. But yeah, let's go ahead and proceed. So there we have our agrax earthshade. This is a nice wash. I really like this one because it's basically a combination of a brown and a black. So Games Workshop obviously has Nuln Oil, which is your straight black, and then they have like a Reikland flesh shade, which is like a kind of red brown, and then they also have a kind of like just brown by itself, and then this one is kind of the black and brown mixed. So we just get a nice big brush and go ahead and saturate it. And then again, I'll just start down in the cracks and just kind of trace along the edge of the cracks and just make sure to get plenty down in there. I want to trace around like the base of the skull where there would be naturally like shadows. And then I'll do like a little bit on the edge right here, anywhere where there's like kind of like a cut or jagged bit in the base there. And then all the areas where there is like dirt or grime, in this case it's our sand, is built up. Again, down over here. And our goal here is to just essentially create those levels of depth. And we can just kind of wipe off anywhere we get it where we don't want it. And we don't want to be like overly sparing with the wash, but we also don't want to like oversaturate areas where we don't want it either. But the main goal is to just get this overall looking essentially how we have it now. And then I just kind of trace down in like the actual writing. Try to get like a little pool down in each one of the letters. And then again, I'll just kind of wipe off a little bit of excess. But that's basically it. That is one base done. That's the look we're going for. And then on to the next. So we'll just do one like this next, just to kind of show off the difference. So with this one, we have a lot more of just like our random sand and rubble and a lot less of the like details. So again, I'm going to just kind of do complete saturation around all this stuff. Anywhere where we have like little like kind of chinks in the stone, I'm going to just kind of like accentuate those with the line. And then we're just going to go ahead and trace around all the damaged portions. But that's it. That's basically what we're going for. So we're just going to go ahead and keep knocking these out. All right, so now I went through and agrax earthshade down in all the little recesses. We're going to go ahead and have to let this dry for quite a while, as some of the recesses will have like larger sets of pooling and everything. The next step is going to be to go ahead and go through and just repaint all of the skulls with a white. After that is all nice and dry, I will do a skeleton horde contrast paint over the skulls to give them kind of like that yellowy, kind of rotten look to them. And then the final step will be to go through and just paint the base rims. So we can take a closer look and see how they came out. So you can see we have a nice three-dimensional distinction between like the various levels, different colors, the highlights, lowlights, washes, all that good stuff. And then once we paint the rims is when everything will really stand out. And then the yellow in the skulls with like the white from our contrast paint is really just going to accentuate it, because it'll essentially add in like something that will make the whole base kind of pop. Here we can see on our big boy base. Now this one we'll do some metallics in the center there. And then again, we'll do the skulls and just kind of accentuate it. And then of course the rim as well. And here we can see on our grav tank base as well. Same type of thing. The majority of this will be obviously covered up by the tank, but we want to make sure that from a distance, when you kind of glance in, you'll see like the lightness in here. Or if you look at it kind of from the side or underneath, you'll see like the various lightness. Here we have Trajan's display base. Now this one is still very wet because it's the most recent one I just finished. But as we can see now, this has come out really nice. Went from our 4 little pieces into one large one. And with all the various like lines and everything like that, really has a nice look to it. And you can hardly tell that it was ever 4 pieces to begin with. And it looks like it was supposed to be 1 piece the whole time, and will be a nice center point focus on the table and draw your attention to Trajan, even though he's going to be surrounded by, an army of the Emperor's finest, a couple of big boy dreadnoughts, one really big Telemon dreadnought, and a couple of gigantic grav tanks. And yet, from a distance, Trajan will still stand out, and that is the goal. And then obviously we have all our various bike bases. See, we have drilled out the larger holes for the flight stand to fit down in there. But when we flip it over on the back, we have just the small hole so that it will fit in there nice and tight. And then we can remove these from the bikes with our magnets and leave the clear flight stand attached to this portion of the base for easy transport. And again, these have come out really nice. Everything looking good. Just on to the next step. All right, so I went ahead and painted all the skulls white and then hit them with a quick coat of Skeleton Horde Citadel contrast paint. Then we took our Abbadon black and did a nice thick coat around the rims. And here we have our bases all complete. I attached the flight stands to our jet bike bases with the magnets attached. And looks like we are good to go. So we can kind of take a closer look at the completed bases. And then we'll go ahead and attach the custodes on here. And they are ready to go. So this is it. This is the look we're going for. It's got a nice overall aesthetic. Plenty of detail to it, but it's not so much that it's going to take away from the models. And then we have that nice dark edge so that it really stands out on the battlefield. And here we have just a couple more examples. You can see how the central holes are filled in, and just kind of look various ways by sort of spreading out the sand a little bit in either direction, making it look random. It makes it so that you don't see the drilled out perfect center hole, and it looks a little more natural. And then we can attach our boyz to the base and make them look even better. And here with these two, I have put the skull over one of the drilled out holes in the middle, and then the other one, this one here, was one of the ones that we just made out of our bits. It wasn't actually one of the circle cut bases, so we can see how I added just a little bit of more rubble around the edges and everything, and then of course just added in some skulls, and see how overall these bases are super cheap, super effective, and look awesome, but also don't take a ton of time. Don't overly draw your attention away from the models. It's sort of like the perfect blend of 40k, Sigmar, whatever you're looking for. They look really good with Warcry. You could obviously do them with Kill Team if you wanted. Not quite as much for Necromunda, but the versatility of these is fantastic, and I love the overall look when they're completed. So here we have our big boy base. This one will be for the Telemon Dreadnought. Again, I really like how this came out, and if you just kind of remember back to what it looked like at the beginning of the video, and then look at it now, we can see how all the little stages, all the little bits that we added in, the sand, the extra layers, the nice coating around the edge, the skulls have really just taken this to the next level. And then here we have for the two smaller dreadnoughts, the Achilles and Gladys dreadnoughts. And again, have a nice look on them overall. Threw a couple skulls on there, and then the perfect blend of our actual like roughed up base rubble, and then a little bit of sand, and then our nice black edges as well. So these should look great. They should accent the models on top, but not take away your attention so much that you're paying attention to the base and not to the boyz on top. And here we've got a couple of our flying stands for the jet bikes. And again, I like the stairs on this one because it gives us an option to kind of use some of what would be just excess scraps, as they're not really that useful for our regular bases, because we want a nice flat surface for all of our miniatures to stand on. And then of course we have the combination of like the inset skulls and then the skulls we added in. Overall, very happy with how these came out. I've done quite a few of these and they always look awesome. And then here we have our first of the grav tank bases. This one's got the perfect blend of like the rubble, sand bits, the skulls and everything. Enough darkness that it doesn't like draw your attention underneath the tank, but also enough like little bits of light ruins and everything that it will catch your eye and show off the detail, from a distance. So that is what we're going for. And of course, there is our other one for the grav tank. Again, nice overall look. Made sure to leave the rubble and bits and everything away from the areas where the tank is going to actually sit. We've got plenty of room in there to add on our flying stand, which is magnetized, and then that way you'll be able to remove the base from the model for transport. But when you pick up the model to move it, the base will come right along with it, and it will be nice and stable. And then of course, last but not least, we have the completed base for Trajan. So this is our display base, essentially just to kind of show him off. And you can see how we combine these four pieces into one, and with just a little bit of green stuff, a little rubble and everything, really looks like this was just one kind of terrain piece made for him. And then of course we have the magnet and everything installed, so we can take our regular base for Trajan. He's got his little rock on there, so once we mount him on there, he'll sit perfect, and then we can just kind of pop him in. And that is magnetized and looks like it belongs. And then of course we can remove him and play our games with him, but when he's sitting on the shelf, he still stands out. And then this will obviously draw attention to him, as he is the centerpiece of the army, but the tanks and dreadnoughts and everything might steal away a little bit of his thunder without his little pedestal. So that is it. We're all finished up. I've got our army full of bases and a couple extras for some other commissions as well. Came out very nice as always. Looking forward to going ahead and mounting the completed commission of custodes on here, and then debuting those in the very near future as well. A lot of work has gone into the army, and then obviously these bases as well, and I'm very happy with the overall finished product. I know the client will be as well, and I'm really looking forward to sending over the pictures for him. If you like the video today, if you like this type of content, anything from Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, and Warcry, all kinds of reactions and reviews to rules, books, models, etc., to conversions like this, homemade bases, scratch-made terrain, or any kind of painting, converting, magnetizing, or lighting tutorials, pretty much anything to do with the hobby, make sure you like and subscribe for all kinds of awesome and unique content. Leave in the comments down below the video, make sure you leave a comment. Let me know what you think of these. Are you going to make some of your own? Have you done something like this in the past? Do you have any kind of bases that you like to make? Is there something that you would like me to show you how to make? I've done all kinds of cool Mars terrain bases for AdMech, all kinds of different bases for like cities, for deserts, and pretty much everything in between. So if you like the video today, make sure you like and subscribe, share with your friends. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and I'm out of here.